gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, isn't it?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. He looked good, Coach.
Oh, trying. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air on a Monday here in the Quad Cities. Excuse me, it is a Tuesday here in the Quad Cities. It is Tuesday, February 25th. Thank you guys so much for joining us. The sun is shining. The weather is fantastic. I actually got to go outside and play catch with the kids yesterday a little bit. So the spring will be here quickly, a lot different than what it was like here last week, freezing, chilly, cold, snow on the ground, all that good stuff. So things brightening up outside. A lot to get to on today's show. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you so much. Thank you for subscribing. We definitely do appreciate that. We are nearing ever so closely to 700 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Please check us out. Please click that. Make sure you rate us, like us, all those kind of things that help grow this thing. We are getting close to 700. 689 subscribers. We'd love to get to 700 by the end of this week and keep rocking our way towards 1,000 as well. If you're watching us live on X, we appreciate that as well. We started that last week. It's been very, very good to us. So we appreciate if you've taken the time to watch us on X or go back and watch us on X as well. Also, we are up on all of the podcasting platforms as well. So if you don't get to see the show during the day, I get it. It's 10 a.m. Most of you guys are working real jobs, not just pretending to have a show in your loft. So if you don't get a chance to watch us during the day, watch us live, you can always check us out on the podcasting platforms, Apple, Podbean, Spotify, iHeart, you name it. We're on them. And what I always say with that one is the best part is you don't have to look at me. You can listen to the show without having to look at my ugly face as well. So a lot to get to in today's show. We appreciate you guys being here with us. Coming up today, it is Iowa versus Illinois night. They only play one time this year during the regular season in basketball as opposed to always playing twice. And they didn't play in football either, so it's been a while since the Iowa-Illinois, the Illini and Hawkeye rivalry has been on full display. That happens tonight. It's the Hawkeyes and the Illini taking center stage down in Champaign, State Farm Center, 8 p.m. tip on FS1. Currently, the Illini 11.5-point favorites. Of course, both teams coming in struggling a little bit this season, so we'll see if either team can get back on track. And, there's only two people you can turn and talk to when it comes to the Iowa-Illinois basketball rivalry. It is Kedric, it is Tom Kakert, and they are moments away from joining us to break down not just this rivalry, but both fan bases, what both fan bases have been going through. We'll talk about both coaches as well, because both have their critics out there. Brad Underwood down in Illinois, and of course, there's a situation with Fran McCaffrey in Iowa City as well. So we'll get to that as well. So a lot to get to with the Iowa and Illinois rivalry coming up in just a little bit with our good friends Tom Kakert and Kedric. They are just around the corner. Also, coming up a little bit later on in today's show, we will take a look at some high school basketball. It is regionals in Illinois. Sectionals will follow. And in 2A, it's really intriguing with a lot of local schools all funneling through Mercer County and then one of them going down to Macomb. That sectional will be at Sherrard. There's no better guy to talk about small school basketball in the state of Illinois than my good friend Ty Taylor from WRMJ. He's coming up in the second hour of the show today. So make sure you stick around and check out that as well. Also, if you missed yesterday's show, it was Monday. That means Pat Angerer is always on Mondays. So check out what Pat had to say. Also, Jordan Delp from Augustana College, the head basketball coach, with plenty of smile about these days. The Augustana Vikings have won 6 of their last 7 games. They knocked off Illinois Wesleyan on senior night on Saturday. They are 4th in the CCIW to finish things up. They will host a postseason game at the Carver Center for the first time since 2019. They'll do that in the first round of the CCIW tournament coming up on Tuesday, tonight, at the Carver Center. So go check out Jordan's interview and then go down to the Carver Center tonight and check out some really good college basketball as they host Elmhurst this evening at 7 p.m. Also, yesterday we had a couple Bettendorf State champions in TJ Kester and Jake Knight. Check out that interview. And Don Umland was on as well to talk about some controversial calls over the past weekend when it came to sports here in the Quad Cities, especially on the college hardwood. But we start today with two of my favorite people, two longtime friends. The three of us have been arguing over Iowa and Illinois. Wouldn't you say for 25 years? I think 25 with me. You guys both go farther back than that. Ked Prince is here, and the one and only, and thank God there's only one of them, Tom Kakert here as well. Fellas, I appreciate you doing it. It's Iowa-Illinois Day. Everybody's got to be pumped, right?
It's the one meeting this year.
I'm not pumped. Tom might be pumped, but I'm not.
No, I'm not because I know that this is get right. This is get right Tuesday for the Orange and Blue. It's get right Tuesday.
I want to talk
this.
I want to talk about this first because I mentioned it on Monday's show, and I love this rivalry. You guys know I love this rivalry. You guys love this rivalry. You grew up with it. It sucks this year. Because, like, you try to talk to somebody and they're just like, no, we're worse than you. You're worse than us. All this. I mean, everybody's so down on their team that it takes away the fun of the rivalry, doesn't it, Ked?
Matt, okay, no disrespect, Iowa fans. The team stink, man. They're just not very good right now. I'm sorry, but they're not. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to your listeners and pretend that Illinois is like ranked third in the country. We saw when they played the third-ranked team in the country what happened last Saturday, the worst loss in the program history. I mean, personally, as a guy who covers Illinois, I'm scared about tomorrow. And I have said it before, even before the Duke game, because here's why I'm scared. I believe Iowa leads the conference in scoring. They're one of the best offensive teams in the country. Illinois is one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the country. I mean, I have two cats at home with me, and I would bet money on my cats that they can make a jump shot before one of the Illinois players. I'm struggling with it. And the rivalry part stinks because it is great. I wish we could have played in football this year. That would have been fun, but the basketball – and it's not the end of the day. It's just 1 year for Illinois, but it's just not a good time for me. I'm not even looking forward to it, to tell you the truth. Not to ruin your podcast, but I am not looking forward to it.
No, you're never going to ruin this podcast because we're still going to have a lot of fun. Tommy, you got to feel the same way. I mean, it's not like either team's coming in bragging about the future and how things could be really good and all that kind of stuff. There's been bigger games in this rivalry than tonight's.
I was lost, four straight in Champaign. They're 60-17 overall in games in Champaign. I won one road game this year, and that was at Rutgers. I just
a team that beat Illinois, just so you know.
We all know how this plays out. And it's Illinois hits like 15 or 20 threes. They just get right. They all of a sudden they can make every three.
Come on, man.
Because Iowa's giving up 3-point percentage by opponents in Big Ten play is almost 40%, 39.7%.
Something's got to give, Ked. Something's got to give.
I'm gonna give Tom and all your listeners some homework. Illinois can't shoot threes. They can't play defense. And I'm telling you, I think the score, you didn't even ask about a score, but I guarantee it, somebody's going to put up 90 tomorrow. And I don't think it's the club that I root for. So I'm going to tell you, the club that I cover, excuse me.
Ken, let me ask you this. Sure. Why have they been so bad shooting the ball? Because they've got good shooters on that team, or at least they were supposed to be good shooters coming in.
Damn it, I was hoping you didn't ask me that question because I don't have an answer. I'm going to make one up for you, though. Here's the deal.
Was it due? The lottery pick is supposed to be a good – I think he passes up too many shots, honestly. I think he's too unselfish.
No, he can stop shooting. No, I'm good with that. Here's the deal. They're supposed to be able to shoot the basketball. I've seen it myself. And it's just one of those things that's hard to explain. I think it becomes mental with them right now. Coming into the season, it was one of Brad's best shooting teams, which is why he assembled this team together. But Ben-Hur Brickhouse, who has every nickname in the world now, is Ben-Hur Brickhouse is one of the names. He has struggled. You can't go through a whole game and not score. Tomislav Ibisic, I feel bad for the kid. He is not healthy still. And he's the most valuable player on the team. I know KJ Kasparis will be a lottery pick, but he's not healthy. They just can't shoot it. And it doesn't matter. Boswell came in as a 38% shooter from Arizona. He's shooting 22% from the field. Anybody, and I'm going to tell you, Fran, if you're listening to this, Illinois fans, don't get mad at me. You got to do what Wisconsin did, Tom Izzo did, and Duke did last week. Give them open shots. They literally sagged off. It wasn't like intentionally, but they let them shoot it because they can't. So if your coach, Frank, tries to get up in their face tomorrow, bad guy, because I'm going to tell you, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing because nobody guards them because they can't make it. You saw the stat. They were 2 for 26, and they keep shooting them.
No, I agree, Ked. But here's the thing is, against Iowa, and this is Tommy's response of what's going to be, teams against Iowa – And then you watch the games. It'll be like this guy will come out and make 3 straight threes, and they'll say he's only made 4 all year, but he's made 3 tonight. Like it seems to happen against Iowa, where like you could put a dude in a gym by himself, and he's not making half his threes, but he's gonna make 7 in a game. It's weird how that happens against Iowa this year. All right, before we get rolling too far along, I kind of want to do a state of the team.
Hang on, can I comment about that real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, see, because you guys cover Iowa and you watch Iowa. Do you know when Illinois played USC at home, Brad Underwood calls it doinking a player where they don't guard a guy. Dude made three threes all year. Against Illinois, he had 7. They did it against Minnesota. We're not going to guard this guy. He had 16 points in the first half. It's not just Iowa. I'm telling you. No. Sorry to cut you off, man, but I'm sorry. It's the way it is.
Ken, is Underwood still playing drop coverage with his bigs?
Yeah. So
okay.
I
might have a shot then. If you do that with Josh Dix,
yes.
I might have a good.
Oh gosh,
Josh Dix might
you
be
just ruined the rest of my night. Yes.
Because Tony Perkins had a pretty good day. Was it 2 years ago?
That was when they were playing drop coverage on Tony Perkins.
Yeah, that didn't go well.
He's still doing it.
Okay, so Ked, before we get too far into the rivalry, I want to give like a state of the team address, because you look at Illinois and Ked, I was there with you, like December, January-ish. I was like, I didn't know I didn't know what the floor was. I thought the floor could be a little iffy, but I thought the ceiling was really good with the NBA guys they have on that team. If they put things together quickly, I thought it could be really good. They've lost 3 straight. We all know that. They're 9-8 in the league. It's crazy. You look at these two teams' record. One team has 11 losses. One team has 12 losses. It's been a struggle. So but we know the injuries, the illnesses, all that kind of stuff. Give us the state of the team address from Ked Prince on the Fighting Illini, and then we're going to do the same for Tommy.
I can't pretend that the injuries didn't play a part. I mean, you have 2 of your best players miss a total of 6 games, and then you have Ibisevic, who was still hurt. He was hurt against Wisconsin. I just found out last night that when they played Wisconsin, one of the managers had to drive him up in the car because he was too sick to be around his teammates. Jake Davis was at halftime of the Wisconsin game. He didn't go back in because he was sick. So I can't pretend that stuff doesn't matter, because they are. But some people are saying, well, kid, you're making excuses. Well, it is what it is. The state of the program right now, fans are hurt, and I don't blame them because we have been spoiled. I got to stop saying we. I'm sorry. The fans have been spoiled for a long time. Brad Underwood has done a tremendous job. The problem, I think, right now is that they're young. He was really old last year, and he had guys that just were tough. This is probably not going to make a lot of people happy when I make this comment. I love the European players, but there's a difference. I think they're soft, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I think the NBA is great. I think KJ is going to do great. I talked to a scout last weekend, and he made the comment, Illinois, they don't use him well. That's why he turns the ball over. But to wrap it up real quick, they need some more guys that are just mentally tough, because the European guys are just like Ibisevic. He wants nothing to do with the post. He's 7'1". He'd rather shoot 3s than 2s.
Tommy, tell us about the Hawkeyes before we get rolling into this game. Obviously, a victory on Saturday maybe gets them into the Big Ten tournament. But if you're sitting here towards the end of February trying to get into your conference tournament, There's a lot going on in Iowa City. Give us the state of the Hawkeye address, if you will.
Yeah, I think the thing that stood out for me with this team is a lot of teams would have folded up, and they're still playing hard, and they're still playing for the coaches and themselves and their teammates, and they're still getting after it. And they've kind of weathered some things. Now, I don't know if they'll have Drew Thelwell Tuesday night. I don't know. We'll see. But that could be another, another player that they won't have. So that's going to put more pressure on Brock Harding to handle the load. But, Brock will be up for this game playing against Illinois, against his home state school. But I just think that, this team's done about as well as they could. I just admire their effort. I really do. I think they've stuck together and hung together. Will it get them in the Big Ten tournament? I think they got to win one more game in order to feel comfortable about being in. Because if they don't win tonight, they don't win at win at Northwestern. Boy, they're going to have something good happen to them, because otherwise Northwestern might pass them up in the standings, and Iowa could be done March 9th at Nebraska.
You look at injuries, and Ken, I agree with you. The flu, the injuries, Merez Johnson is a huge loss that people don't talk enough about. But I think the Iowa injuries are a little bit under the radar as well, because you look at Owen Freeman, he'd be the best big man playing in this game, no offense. And there would also be, Cooper Koch, I think people expected something from this year as a freshman. He's lost his entire freshman season. And then Drew Thelwell, you mentioned, has been in and out the last 2-3 games with an ankle injury. So I do think the injuries for Iowa has affected, especially the Owen Freeman one is a big one. Ken, talk to me about what you see from Iowa. Because there's obviously drama. Well, there's obviously drama, though, and the cat's out of the bag, and everyone is talking about it. Will Fran stay? Will Fran go? All that kind of stuff. So big picture Iowa for me, when you're looking at the University of Iowa and the Hawkeyes and kind of what they're going through.
I think one of the reasons why people don't talk about Iowa's injuries, no disrespect to the Iowa fans, is because they didn't have a great year. There was no really high expectations on that program this year. Illinois had high expectations, so that's probably why you hear more of the injury part and why they're making excuses for. The thing Tom hit about on the head, Iowa's playing hard. And there's a difference, people, between playing hard and going out and shoving people and blah, blah, blah. Iowa gets after it. They really play hard, whether they're playing for Fran or not. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But I do think they get after it. And I think that's going to – and like Tom just mentioned the schedule, Northwestern's going to be tough. If I'm Iowa, I'm saying the wounded duck is Illinois. They just went out and got their face smashed in last Saturday, and they're embarrassed. I know Tom's being politically correct, thinking that Illinois is going to get right, tonight. But somebody's got to win, somebody has to lose. But to be honest with you, Iowa scares me, and I've told people this on multiple podcasts because everybody was picking this win for Illinois. Iowa averages, I believe, 88, 89 points a game. Illinois is one of the worst defensive teams in the country and conference. So, Tom and Matt, I'm asking you both, what makes you think the Illinois is going to stop them? Because I tell you, I got tweeted at one time, somebody wanted Fran to retire, and they wanted him to be the X's and O coach at Illinois because he's such a good offensive coach.
I did hear that from somebody, too. Who told me that? Tommy, he asked you the question.
He's good.
What prevents Iowa from scoring 80-some points a game or tonight again in Champaign?
I just think depth. I think Iowa's beat up. Even the starters are beat up. I mean, it takes your toll. And I think Iowa will hang in there, but just not that Illinois is super deep, but they've got some depth. And I think it just wears Iowa down in the second half. You've seen that in some of these games, the Oregon game and just different games along the way where teams pull away. Purdue, they can just hang in there. And then that final 10 minutes, the better players make bigger plays, and Iowa just seems to run out of gas. That's my fear, is that they're Peyton Sanford's less than 100%. He walked in the media room before he got in. We could hear him in the hallway, and he goes, "Everything hurts." He's beat up. Josh Dix was hobbling around the last 15 minutes of that game. He's beat up, and really for Iowa to win a game, Josh and Peyton have to score over 20 points. It's just their margin for error is just so razor thin, where Illinois got some wiggle room, I think, because Iowa just doesn't have a lot of guys that can score without Owen around. They're very limited in terms of who's going to be a 20 to 25 point guy in a game.
No, I would agree with a lot of what Tommy said. I do think that, Iowa could score 80, 85 points. Man, especially on the road, Ked, they struggle defensively. They just do. They give up a ton of points. And like Tom said, you go back to the Maryland game. It's a 4-point game. They're winning at the half. They lost by 26. It seems like, especially on the road, when things go wrong, they go wrong quickly for the University of Iowa.
The wheels come off quick. I mean, that Wisconsin game up in Wisconsin in January, I was up there, and it was 30-30. And then all of a sudden it was 116 to 74 or whatever it ended up being. And they made 21 3-pointers. And Wisconsin hasn't traditionally been known as a great 3-point shooting team. And they just destroyed Iowa in the final, 30 minutes of that game, or 35 minutes of that game, I think.
Ken, let me ask you this.
They don't only shoot that many threes.
No, it's really intriguing because it's pretty simple. Like, Iowa needs two dudes to score, and Illinois needs to make shots. And which one's going to happen is who wins the game. If Iowa, lags off and allows them to shoot it, and they do go shoot. But, man, law of averages, Ked. Isn't just a law of averages out there that they're going to not miss 17 straight threes? Like, that's not going to happen again.
Have you been watching those?
I get it.
My goodness.
I watch every time.
No.
I watch every game.
Man.
They're shooting 30.5% from three this year. It's not going to magically get better for Illinois from three. It's not.
Not in one night, and the defense is going to get better in one night. It's just not going to happen. They can say, yeah, we're going to do this and do that. Tom is starting to wake up, man. I don't know what kind of coffee you're drinking, but we got to give something to Matt. I'm just telling you, buddy.
Do you think you can convince Tommy by the end of this thing?
No, it's at this point. At this point in the season, the stats are more than just like an anomaly. We're almost 30 games into the season. Illinois and Iowa are who they are, and that's why Iowa. I wonder, because they've given up a lot of 3-pointers, so maybe they get hot for a game. But Illinois is not going to turn into a great 3-point shooting team overall. They could have a big 3-point shooting game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying in general, my law of averages is, what were they against Duke? 2 of 30-something, wasn't it?
2 for 26.
Yeah, 2 for 26.
So
that means
he told him to keep shooting.
But to get back to 33%, you're gonna make some shots. Like, they're due to make 8. They're due to make some.
What? I'm looking at the schedule. I'm going to see when was the last time Illinois got quote-unquote hot. Oh, I know when it was, when they went to Minnesota. That's the last time Illinois has been quote-unquote hot.
Didn't they get hot against Indiana? Didn't they get hot against Indiana?
Was that Christmas time? I can't remember. Yeah, that was 14th.
January,
yes, January 14th. The last time they shot the ball. Yeah, they did.
They scored 60 points in the first half against Indiana.
94-69. Look how long ago that was. I'm not trying to be a negative Nelly, fellas. I'm not, but I'm being very realistic here. We can't pretend, you can't put all that lipstick on and think that you can add makeup to it, and it's not going to show. They are just not a good 3-point shooting team, and I think where the fans get frustrated, and even the guys who cover the team, when he came out and told the kids he wanted them to continue to shoot the basketball at halftime, I mean, I probably lost 14 pounds just because I couldn't believe he said it, number one. And I'm thinking, dude, no, because I'm telling you, I'm honest with you. I watch the games when they're live or I'm there, but I watch them again, and I'm telling you, teams are literally not guarding them. They're telling you to shoot the basketball. Because if they make a couple of great, but the only guys who have the potential to make some, I guess they all have a potential to do it. Ivica will be the one guy I'm afraid of. That's it.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I want to talk.
I want to ask you this.
Go ahead,
Hold on.
Tommy.
I want to ask Kedric. Was Underwood's roster construction just kind of a mistake this year? Just going out and just wholesaling the whole new roster and going with a bunch of foreign guys, for lack of a better term, and just kind of it seemed like early on it seemed like it was a great idea, but now it just seems like a bad idea.
Tom, it was a good idea. And I think one of the things that Brandon, I've known him for 8 years now, and he was always jealous. And this is where we're having this conversation of the way Iowa plays, because everybody in Iowa can shoot the basketball. But when at Illinois, he's never had guys that consistently shoot it, guys who were supposed to be able to shoot and couldn't. So he went out and put a roster together of 5 guys who could shoot it. And they all, I mean, you look at that lineup coming into the season, even KJ, who's probably going to be a lottery pick, and then you got Ibisevic, and you got Ben-Hum Rickhouse, who came in as one of the best 3-point shooters. I get it. But I think right now, I don't know if he would ever admit it or not, it was definitely a mistake because there's no older guys. If you look at that starting lineup that they have, Ben-Hum Rickhouse, a fifth-year senior, and then you have Colin Boswell. Everybody else was freshmen. Ibisevic is 21 years old, but he's a freshman. Will Riley's a freshman. Maurice Johnson's a freshman. And he did that because that's what he wanted to do. If it was me personally, I would have kept Dane Danger.
Will Riley's should be a senior in high school. He's really good. I'm not saying, but you mentioned youth. We're not just talking freshman. We're talking about a guy who reclassified, who should be in high school still. So no, and I get it. And I think Illinois did a good job of embracing what college basketball has become. And that's those older dudes that are ready to win. And they had done that in the past. They kind of went away from it. You look at Kentucky. I mean, John Calipari's not there anymore because he kept on trying to win with young kids. Now Duke's doing it and doing it to a high level right now, but that's a lot of 5-star McDonald All-American kids to kind of mix in with a few veteran guys here and there. But no, I was kind of surprised they did it as well. Ked, what's the I see it. I'm on X. I get all that kind of stuff too. Where are the Illini fans with Brad Underwood? I've had Jim Metzen on several times, a great Illini guy down in Peoria, and he talks about how there's a big frustration about, Brad and maybe coaching. You mentioned X's and O's, Ked, and bringing Fran in to be that and all that kind of stuff. Where's the fan base with a guy who took a program under John Gross that was awful and brought it back to an Elite Eight last year? They're not ready just to throw them out with the bathwater, are they? Or where are fans at now with Brad Underwood?
Well, I want to let the fans know that I know they're frustrated. They are. And as soon as Bill Self start losing, they want to fire him. That's the easiest thing to do, fellas. Just say fire the guy. And if I'm being truthful here with you, I want the fans to know, I want to read this little paragraph real quick, and this is why Brad Underwood was not going anywhere. The contract buyout terminated Brad Underwood at the end of the season, $30.6 million, unless Underwood gets another job and a financial offset occur. That $30.6 million will be made in monthly installments through the end of his contract term, which is April 30th, 2030. He's not going anywhere. So the people who can sit there and think that, because when you look at them, if you go back and all the people listening, Google the top 10 highest paid basketball coaches. My guy Brad Underwood is there. The football coach is there, and so is Shauna Green. So Brad's not going anywhere. But to answer your questions, I personally do think the X's and O's part needs to be a little different, because I've had coaches, and I'm not going to say names because in case Coach Underwood's listening to this, I have had coaches say and parents say to me that they're the easiest team to prepare for because they don't make adjustments. They do the same thing. They do the same thing, and they do the dribble handoff. And Michigan State was one of those schools. They just sat on it and made Illinois prove they could shoot it, and they lost. I think he's an unbelievable recruiter. If you look at all the head coaches in the Big Ten, I say he's the best recruiter out of all of them. But I do think there needs to be some changes with X's and O's. When there's timeouts, fellas, I don't just watch the score. I'm watching to see what they drew up or what they have planned, which is why I love Shauna Green. That woman is amazing. She is an X's and O's master. So I think Illinois needs that. And right now, they're easy to guard.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Tommy, the fan base in Iowa City and Fran, and it's funny because I've said on the show before that, like, the anger in Champaign to Brad Underwood shows that the fan base cares. The apathy in Iowa City is almost, I wish they were more angry about Fran and the season, all that kind of stuff, because apathy is a word that we've heard a lot when it comes to the Iowa basketball program. And Tom did a fantastic, Tom and Scott Doctorman did a really good podcast. Go check it out, the Hawkeye Report podcast, all but one little thing we won't get into. But did a really good podcast kind of laying out where Iowa basketball is and where it's going. Tommy, talk to that a little bit, because Iowa's got some big decisions regardless of what happens these next 4 games.
Yeah, there's really, we're talking about there's like 3 lanes for Beth Getz, Iowa's athletic director, to take. With Fran, it's either, you move on from him, you tell him he's got to make changes to his staff, like a D coordinator or something, because they're like, I think they're 175 in KenPom and defensive effective efficiency, which is just beyond bad, just really bad. I mean, over 100 is not good, and you're 175, so it's not good. Or you just roll on and just keep doing things the way you're doing them. Those are your 3 options, and she's going to have to make a decision at the end of the season about what she's going to do with Fran, who his buyout not as big as Brad Underwood's, only $4.2 million that they can pay out in $1.4 million sums over 3 years. So it's not a unwielding thing to do. But they're going to also have to increase the NIL and not just the house settlement money that they're going to earmark for men's basketball. They're going to have to increase just the overall, because Iowa's, overall NIL for men's basketball is grand total of $1.5 million. I'm going to guarantee you Illinois is probably what, Ked, probably 5, 6?
There's players that are getting that, Tom. 1. So that tells you where.
I was like the bottom 3 in the Big Ten. It's like Minnesota, Northwestern, maybe Penn State, and then Iowa. The average middle of the pack for Big Ten for NIL right now is at least $3 million. That's middle of the pack. That's probably low middle.
I don't want to brush over that. Say that again, Ked, because while you chuckle and I chuckle a little bit, there's Iowa fans that's gonna piss them off, because there's a guy in Illinois making as much as Iowa gets for NIL. Is that kind of what you just said?
Let me tell you something. I don't want to see anybody lose their job, whether it be basketball, working at a fast food restaurant, working at a park. I love Fran, but I'm going to tell you, Iowa basketball is not what it once was. When I look at the games, the people on TV, the camera angles, they try to hide the fact that there's no fans there. Iowa is a football school, and I am a huge Caitlin Clark fan. You guys both know that. She has changed the games for women's basketball in Iowa City. And when that money comes that Tom's talking about, it's going to go to the football program, women's basketball, and men's basketball third. And what I'm telling you, and it's not just Illinois. Let's look at Coleman Hawkins, who was Illinois last year. He got $2 million to go to Kansas State. And I'm Illinois basketball, and God bless Brett Bielema and Shauna Green, because they're changing the narrative. But I'm going to tell you, and you guys aren't, Tom knows I'm telling the truth. You think those foreign guys are coming over here for nothing? There was a kid named Demore something, I think, out of BYU. He won a $2.5 million from Illinois, and he ended up going to BYU. So understand, when you bring these foreign kids over here, you're going to pay them. They're not just going to come here for no $75,000. And I know that's why the Perkins kid left Iowa, because they wouldn't pay him money. So the situation is Iowa, unfortunately, where it's going to come from, if you get a home run coach, they're going to put the money in, just like they did with Calipari. But until they do that, and if you keep him there, and I don't want to see him lose his job, it's going to be status quo. You have to have NIL money. Tom's right, or you're not going to. Illinois, and I wrote an article for my company, Illini Guys, and I've talked to a number of players' parents, which I'm lucky to do. These comments, these NIL offers are already happening right now. They're literally happening. Teams are saying, hey, Matt, I don't want you to come back when I give you any NIL money. Tom, I'm going to offer you $600,000. That is happening right now.
You're paying Tom and not me?
It was just an
Hey,
example
hey,
because of the
Oh
whole
my
thing.
God.
hey, Ked, I want to ask you about
Yes,
something
sir.
because I know you've probably got an opinion on this. You probably saw Brock Harding's tweet after the game the other night.
No, I didn't. I'm
Um,
sorry. I apologize.
Hey,
But please
Ken,
enlighten me.
watch the show. Watch the show.
Matt,
We
do you
I'm
want
talked
to
sorry.
do you
all
want to
about
read
it.
do you want to
Yeah.
read the tweet to?
Yeah, I have it right here. And full disclosure for everybody who's watching this, everybody that you see on your screen right now knows the Hardings. Okay? So like we know the family, we know the people, all those kind of things. So yes, there's some bias in me and probably the others on your screen right now. But and Brock had a good game on Saturday. 11 points. I think it was 4 rebounds, 4 assists, something like that, Tommy. But he did tweet out
4 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 turns, 3 3-point field goals out of 5 attempts.
So after the game, he tweeted, "Y'all hate me no matter what I do. I really don't care what you all got to say. Stay on that side." And so obviously, when I read that, and I think when Tom reads that, we read it and think, well, that's Brock being Brock. That's kind of what he does. That's who he is. To get on social media and do those kind of things, we had Jordan Delp on yesterday, and JD was like, I wished he wouldn't have done it, but that's the kind of thing that happens. Just your response of that young man who you've known as a competitor, tweeting, I guess, at fans kind of about what's going on.
I apologize. I know I love technology, but you cut out when you read that whole part, and I would love to hear it. So yeah,
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear any of it. Would you mind reading it
You're
again?
good.
I'm so sorry.
Absolutely. I thought you froze up there. I didn't think you were sitting that still. That's the quietest you had been all night, so I knew it had to be the technology.
Well, you guys are asking me the question. This is supposed to be a 3-way show, but
I love it.
Tom's
I love
asking
it.
me a bunch of
No,
questions.
he
I'm
basically
enjoying it.
he tweeted, "Y'all hate me no matter what I do. I really don't care what y'all got to say. Stay on that side." You've known Brock. He's a competitor. That's kind of how he's wired. Your thoughts when you hear a tweet from Brock Harding like that?
I remember watching that kid. He played basketball for me when he was in 5th grade. And I remember when he walked into that gym, there were a bunch of 7th and 8th graders that were scared to play against that kid. And I'm not trying to make this a feel-good story. He is competitive. He does exactly what every athlete should do. You've heard professional athletes do the same thing. I don't blame the kid because people are really quick to judge. And that's the country we live in right now. Everybody in this country is so quick to judge and think they have a right to say what they want to say without consequences. Brock is at practice every day. I know his family. His wife, his mother was my daughter's basketball coach at Alma. His father was my son's baseball coach. So I'm extremely close to that family. They're good people. Brock is wired different. And to me, if Illinois had 9 Brock Hardings, they wouldn't be 17 and 11. So that answers your question because they need what today's term is, ladies and gentlemen, dogs. And that's exactly what he is. He's a tough competitor. And I don't blame him. You don't back down from a challenge because you only get one shot at college basketball. I'm proud of the kid, not because I don't know him, because I know him. It could have been Cooper Koch. It could have been anybody. When teams are against you and against your coach, you don't side with the fans. Sure, you get upset. But those kids are out there competing. 25 minutes ago, Tom Kakert said it. They play hard, and Brock plays hard.
No, hey, Tommy, Iowa fans are going to hate Ked even more now because he stuck up for Brock. That's the double-edged sword. That's a double-edged sword.
Listen, let me tell you
They blamed Dazzo for
Yeah, Ked, get this.
Brock.
I got blamed because I talked him up too much, and that was my fault for talking him up too much. Oh, well.
Let me tell you something. I met Tom when I was probably 25 years old. I'm not going to say my age right now, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not the same person. If you think I give 2 pieces of, what an Iowa fan and Illinois fan thinks of me, I don't care. I really don't. Years ago, I would be crying and come home to my wife and asking for some warm milk and some whatever, and I don't care anymore because at the end of the day, those comments are negative, and it's not. How is they helping the program? Even the comments that I made about the Illinois program, those aren't taking shots at people. You don't make personal shots. They're kids, and that's somebody's kid. You both have kids, and I know you're going to give me the politically correct answer. Somebody say something about my kids like that, put me 6 foot under. So I don't blame those kids for competing and wanting to go out to play hard. He could have went somewhere else. To be honest with you, Tom, I remember when they were recruiting him, Fran was kind of him-hawing about it, but he is a kid that grew up an Illinois fan. His brother played baseball in Illinois. And this kid out there, and he bleeds black and gold, and you want to turn your back on him.
Yeah, no, well said, Ken Prince. I don't say that all the time, but well said, Ken Prince. All right, let's look at this game real fast, and then I'm going to take a quick break, and I want to talk to you guys about football notes and women's basketball as well, because you both have a lot to get excited about when it comes to women's basketball. But this game itself, I know we've all talked about, the downfalls of both teams. Tommy, I'll talk with you. How do you see tonight's games going? I know the struggles of Iowa. I know the struggles of Illinois. But you mentioned the records at that place down in Champaign at the State Farm Center, all that kind of stuff. Give me your thoughts on tonight's game and a prediction for tonight's game as well.
Key for me, I look at Iowa's getting out rebounded by 5 rebounds per game in a negative way. They're just get destroyed on the boards. Illinois, as Ked will tell you, 9 plus 9 on the boards. They get after it. I'm really worried about second shot opportunities for Illinois around the rim that they can get, and Iowa just wear us down. My score was 83-78 Illinois.
Ked, the floor is yours. Give me a prediction.
Tom is right about the rebounding. That's the one thing Illinois does well. They will crash the boards and they'll get after it. Excuse me. I'm going to say, Iowa 82, Illinois 74. Only because you guys are talking. Listen, I know what the spread is. Illinois is favored by 11. They were underdogs to Duke last week by 11 and lost by 43. I'm not saying that to get clicks. Every record that Illinois had to break this year, Brad Underwood's never lost more than 2 games in a row. He's lost 3 this year. The biggest loss in school history last Saturday, 43 points. They're going to have to prove it to me that they're back, and I know how good Iowa is offensively. I'm not just saying. I watch the games and they run good stuff. If Illinois is not shooting the ball well, it could be worse. And I'm sorry, Illinois fans, you might get mad and unfollow me on Twitter. So what? I don't care. But I'm telling you, they have to prove to me, and I think they should prove it to the fans that they're better than that. Sorry.
You know what, Ken? I know you're not using it to get clicks, but after this show, I'm going to use that to get clicks. I'm going to put it up on my stuff. I'm going to use you to get some love as well. You know what? I'm a little more, and I'm not saying this. Hey, you both know you guys can be whatever you are. I'm an unbiased member of the media. I always have been, always will be. And it does. And I'm also a gambler. And it just sets up nicely for Illinois. The get back game, the get right game, whatever you want to call it, back at home at a really tough place to play. And there are going to be a lot of fans there. It's not like you're going to Iowa City. Hey, Ken, did you hear the numbers of people in the seats at some of the games in Iowa City? Chad Leistico was on last week. The actual butts in seats for the Iowa-Minnesota game. Scanned tickets. There you go. Scanned tickets was like 2,800 people.
What?
Yeah.
2,800?
19% capacity of Carver Hawkeye Arena for a Big Ten basketball game with Iowa and Minnesota. Let me say that again.
So let me ask
2,800. That's, I mean, and Tom talked about it on his podcast yesterday.
4,700.
It's about, I mean, there's 2 sides to this whole thing now. It's not just about wins and losses. If you take Fran's resume with wins and losses, like, you're fine. You can get through a bad year. You can say, hey, I got recruits coming. I got one of the highest ranked recruits I've ever had come in. You know, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to get through this. But it's a business as well. And money talks, bottom lines talk. That's crazy. I don't know how I got off on this, but
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What would happen, because I do think Iowa's a football school, what would happen if you walked up to Kinnick Stadium and there was only 10,000 people.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm
lose
saying
their
to you? And Tom asked the question earlier. You have to make changes. You can't. This is Big Ten basketball. And yes, the Big Ten has a ton of money.
And they're also trying to do a $65 million renovation of Carver Hawkeye Arena. And that's hard. That's a hard sell when people aren't supporting the basketball program, the men's program.
I was going to say, but they filled it on Sunday for the women, and the wrestling had a great crowd too. When you look at all three of the events at Carver Hawkeye Arena this past weekend.
Wrestling's different because wrestling, there's like 5 meets a year.
Yep, that's true.
At Carver Hawkeye.
That's true.
It's a limited. I always look at like the wrestling fans, and I love Iowa wrestling fans. They're great people, but it's like hockey. It's the same 15-5 that go every year. There's just it's not as robust as like men's basketball could be.
I completely agree. So my prediction, by the way, I just feel like it's a get-right game for Illinois, all those kind of things. I got Illinois winning 85-75.
Are you going to drive across the bridge? Matt, are you driving across the bridge tomorrow?
Hold on. Say that again, Tommy.
Are you driving across the bridge tomorrow?
Today. Remember, Tommy, this is live.
Today. Today. Are you driving?
No, because it's 11.5. That's right where I'm at. That's right where I tell you what. If I'm Ked, and I really think the Illinois is going to lose, I mean Iowa's probably plus 500. Might as well go across the bridge and bet it. That'd be Keelan knows. I guarantee Keelan knows. But all right,
yes, boy, don't bring
Keelan ain't betting on the Hawks. I know
that should be your son.
Fact.
He gambles.
Keelan Prince is not betting on the Hawks.
Oh no! Oh, listen to me. If my son was on this podcast right now, you would have the best ratings of any podcast in the last 3 months. He won't even watch them play anymore. He's like, Dad, I'm done. I don't want to watch it. My daughter is a PE teacher at Assumption High School. She went to work today, and she was like, Dad, I want to come home because she's the only Illinois fan there. Every teacher, even her students, let her have what happened to Duke last Saturday. And they asked her, just like they did to me today, you know what's going to happen tomorrow when Iowa City comes. That's why I'm telling you, man, we're not stupid people.
No, hey, I can't. And before we move on to football and other stuff, Ked.
Yes.
How is the banner upside down? The hell?
Gosh damn it. Every time I think you're just not going to bring that stuff up, you do it. Gosh.
What was you should have had a live camera on you, because I know Terrence Shannon's your guy too. It's not just somebody that went up into the rafters. The name on it had to drive you crazy that happened. Let him get a little water.
National embarrassment. It's a national embarrassment. Terrence made light of it. I don't know if you guys know or not.
He did
but
awesome.
He did a good job of. Yeah, and he's giving it all, to charity. I'm trying to deflect your question here, but no, that was embarrassing. And I'll tell you what, Josh Whitman was hot. He was not happy. We've all seen those memes or those GIFs or whatever you call them. You had one job, and they knew this was coming 3 months ago to do that to him. And to me, why it stinks, if it was Kofi, I wouldn't have made such a big deal out of it. Knowing what happened to Terrence through the whole year, everything that could have went wrong for him, and then you do that. So I was embarrassed, and you saw all the national media guys. It took, I guess they deflected from the game, which was kind of good, but that was embarrassing. Even the Minnesota Timberwolves made fun of it.
Ken, has been a couple tough Saturday nights for the old Fighting Illini the last couple weeks between that and then, of course, the Duke game. But, hey, we're going to talk about better stuff. I'm going to take a quick break. When we get back, there's some football things I want to talk to both of you guys about. And then I think Shauna Green's the Big Ten Coach of the Year. I don't think it's a close race. We're going to talk about all that and much more with my old good friends. I say old as in we've been friends for a long time. I'm not calling you guys old because I'm old as well.
We are.
But my longtime good friends, Ked Prince and Tom Kakert, will be back on Off the Air right after this.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air on a Tuesday here in the Quad Cities. We're joined by the one and only Ked Prince and Tom Kakert. Of course, it's Iowa and Illinois night. Used to get this twice a year. We used to have this huge rivalry, which we still do, but there's been some fun years. This year, maybe not as fun. And Ked, you mentioned earlier in the show, man, I wish they played in football. And it was really annoying not to have these two schools play in football. It would have been a good football game, all of those kind of things, but these two schools should play every single year, and they simply don't because of Big Ten expansion and all those kind of things. But I want to talk a little football with both of you guys. I'm going to start with Tommy because as I had Pat Anger on the show yesterday, Liddell Betts was leaving town, and he was heading to the New York Giants as their running back coach. Couldn't ask Pat about it because I didn't see it until he was gone, so I'm going to ask you about it. Liddell Betts leaving, young, good coach, good recruiter. Surprising? Not surprising? What were your thoughts on the move?
I was really surprised because there hadn't been any hints that he was looking to leave, and most of the NFL staffs are pretty much set. And then all of a sudden, this drops out of the sky, and it's like the Giants are collecting guys connected to Iowa, like Steve Ferentz and James Ferentz are both coaching for the Giants too, and kind of like assistant to the offensive lineman coach kind of things. And so they're both there. Plus, here's the other thing. I just don't know how much longevity Daboll has with the Giants. I mean, isn't he like, if things don't go well next year, he's fired?
Yeah.
I would think at this point. So then you're going to be out of work. I don't know. It just, not that, I think Kirk's on the tee box of the 18th hole too, but at least there's some more longevity there. It's a surprising move to me.
Tom, how quickly do they make a announcement? How quickly does this position get filled moving forward?
Yeah, I think they're probably going to want to make a decision or an announcement fairly quickly because they have spring ball starting in about a month. So you're going to want to get somebody in there. The question will be, do they just elevate somebody who's on staff, who's in a different role, or do they go outside and hire somebody? I think Kirk's going to act quickly. Probably be a couple weeks, figure things out, and then make a hire. But it's not like there's going to be a lot of really good running back coaches that are just going to be available. So I'm curious if he goes kind of in the family and does something that might be with a former player or something to bring them in that might be more attracted to the job.
We will be keeping an eye on that. Ked, Is there been a football season that you're more excited for in the last 25 years than the next season and what the Illini could look like as a preseason easily top 20, 15 team, probably?
I really am excited. We talked a little bit just real briefly about the rivalry. The Big Ten protected certain rivalries, and I understand why Iowa protected Minnesota and Nebraska, but Illinois protected Purdue and Northwestern. I don't care about Purdue. That's not a rivalry. To me, it would have been better to somehow keep Iowa on that schedule. I mean, not just because of the Quad Cities. It's great around here, guys, but I'm going to tell you, nationally, it still matters, because when you get on social media, which you'll see later on today, the fans are going to start to chirp because they don't like each other still. And parents have taught their kids that, so it's going to be great. But to answer your question, I'm really excited. Brett Bielema is exactly who I thought he would be. When they fired Lovie Smith, I talked to Tom when I found out that they hired Brett Bielema. Tom, I don't know if you remember this or not, but Tom made the comment to me that if Kirk ever left, they would have probably pursued Brett. Brett is good. He's a 50-something-year-old man in a mentally state of a 21-year-old kid because he's fun. He's great on social media. And I'm going to tell you right now, the fans, he's not going anywhere. They have the nation's top 8 recruiting class in the country, and the only 2 Big Ten teams ahead of them, right? Big Ten schools are Oregon and Penn State. He is recruiting like no other, and he is able to convince kids to stay. They return 18 of the 22 starters. That's why they're going to be a top 15 team in the country next year. And when you return your quarterback, and they're going to get Mr. Russ back from Rock Island, who is an outstanding tight end, they're just doing a phenomenal job. And what Brett does is different. We talked about NIL money. He's not just throwing money around like that. When I talk to these recruits, he sells family, and I'm telling you, these kids buy in. They believe what he is telling them.
I think it's great because he makes Illinois relevant on a national stage, not because of wins and losses, but some of the things that he does, the bowl game, the stuff on social media, calling out Jim Harbaugh or whatever it was. Those kind of things, any attention sometimes is good attention, and Illinois football needs some attention, and they're getting it, whether it's good or bad, with Brett Bielema.
The kids like it. I talked to so many recruits. One kid I talked to, he was a junior college kid from Iowa, and one of the things he mentioned to me was this dude got on an airplane, came to see me, got off with some slides on and some sports shorts like he had just got out of the shower, because he's normal. He doesn't try to be somebody that he's not. He's a Midwest kid, a Quad City give or take a few miles. He's just who he is. He doesn't go out try to impress kids. And some kids will say when they go on their official visit, he has his daughters in there in his office. He's drawing pictures with them. That seems normal to them because that's everyday life. When you see some of these other big-time coaches, one, they don't do it. They don't want to go out. They leave it up to their assistant coaches. Brett will talk to, if you're the number 1 player in the state or you're the number 115th player, you're going to get his attention. That is why he's recruiting and why kids don't leave.
Tommy, when does Iowa and Illinois play again?
I don't know. Brett was always a good recruiter at Iowa, too. I mean, he's the guy that went down to Florida and got, the Abdul Hodges of the world early on in Kirk's tenure. Fred Barr, guys like that. And that opened the doors down there. I mean, that was not a place where Iowa got a lot of kids, was Florida. And he went down there, just kind of cold called, and ended up getting a bunch of really good players.
All right, gentlemen, before I let you go, the women's basketball good for both Iowa and Illinois. Iowa nearly getting an upset of UCLA playing a lot better basketball. And Ken, in my opinion, Shauna Green is the Big Ten basketball coach of the year for the ladies. The Clinton native has just been amazing.
She is great. She's better than what most people thought. What I feel bad for is a lot of people, UCLA was going to be getting USC. Well, because they had great years, I think they're just going to give it to one of those coaches. And I don't think that's right. Here's the problem that I have. If there was 2 coaches that are deserving to me, it'd be Shauna Green and the lady from Michigan State. Shauna went out to the West Coast and competed with 6 girls. I mean, the score looks worse than what it was. She got frustrated with her team because they start fouling in the end. You go out and they were in the top 25. They were probably going to finish in the top 4 because Maryland has Indiana and Ohio State left on the schedule, and Illinois only has Michigan. To play with 6 players, you lost your all-star guard and Big Ten guard in Makara Cook. You lost the New York State leading scorer in Gretchen Dolan, who's not playing. They have a 6'7" center from Baylor who's not playing. They just can't, and Shea Bolin, a transfer from Duke, and yet she is still competing. And when I watched them play UCLA and USC, I was convinced this woman is good. And now the concern is, you guys, with a lot of people, is that she's turned that program around in 3 years, and she makes a lot of money at Illinois, but people are starting to come to her, saying, hey, you know what, we want you because she's done a great job. But she also has the nation's 7th best recruiting class. So she has everything she needs. Fans need to show up, but I would really love to see her get that award because she deserves it. Not because she's from the Quad City area, guys. She has done an unbelievable job. Name a team out there that I think in the Big Ten that could do what she's doing with limited players, and most of those girls are from Dayton. I mean, they didn't all come in as high major D1 players.
No, I completely agree. Ked, she came down to the Quad Cities for you remember, for iClub or an Illini Caravan, which again drives me crazy because that thing should come to our area every single year. 1, there's great Illini fans here. 2 of your top 3 coaches are from our area.
The Quad Cities.
Come here. Just come. So anyways, I met her. I was blown away by her. I thought she was awesome. I reached out to the University of Illinois to get a autographed football for my dad's golf outing from Brett Bielema, and along with that came stuff from Shauna Green. She just heard that I was having a golf outing in honor of my late dad, and she sent a note with it that said, hey, I think it's awesome what you're doing with your dad, for your dad. If you can do anything with these, I'd love for you to, whatever. And so we used those in the auction and made money too. So really good basketball coach, but I think you can agree, awesome human being. And I don't think people hear enough about that side of her as well. She's pretty cool.
I want to make one more comment, and this will be the shortest comment of the night for me, which is surprising. Most people know who follow me. I was in the hospital for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. That woman texted me out of nowhere. How she found out, I have no idea. She sent me a text, and I literally started crying because she's just that type of person. She has a good heart. She is a good person. And I tell you, the proof's in the pudding. All her kids could have left and transferred up to go somewhere else. Every one of those girls came back because they believe in her. She is a good, whole, down-to-earth Quad City woman. When I got that text, I couldn't believe it because it was genuine. It wasn't something fake. So she's just a good woman.
Ked, say something nice about Iowa before we let you go.
Hey, Ked, before Ked says something nice about Iowa, I sent you a text too.
Yeah, you did, but it was late.
I did too. I did too. I kept tabs too.
I wasn't looking for that. I'm sorry. I opened up a can of worms.
Did you tear up when I sent you a text message seeing how you're doing?
Yeah, I did. I'm lying.
All right,
I'm lying.
All right.
I did cry.
Tommy, you go first. Say something nice about Illinois.
I only have to go there once this year.
Ked, your turn. Say something nice about the Hawkeyes.
I love Scott Harding. I love Shannon Harding and Brock and Brody Harding. I really do. They are. I'm being honest with you, man. They are like, to this day, my kids have been out of high school for 8 or 9, 10 years, and they still talk to my kids, man. They're just good people. I'm pulling for that kid. If he puts up 40 tomorrow and they lose, I won't be mad. I will be his biggest supporter. They are good. They are truly good people.
The internet will explode. Social media will explode if Brock goes for 40 tonight down in Champaign. Gentlemen, I always appreciate this. This is a ton of fun. Ked, you got to watch more often because Dan Burch is on every Wednesday. We do Old School K-Jock, Wild Man Wednesdays every single Wednesday. One of these times I'll get you on here to yell at him and back and forth like you guys used to do back in the day.
I miss it, and I do watch the shows. Yeah, we do. That's what I said to you. I don't care. It used to be when I was 25, when we did a weekend roundball show, man, we were in our prime. That's what made Tom and I famous, I think. Well, we're not famous, but to get our following. But I do miss it a lot. I really do. That was a good time, man.
Infamous is probably
Matt,
right,
were you even
Tommy.
born then?
I remember the show. Yeah, stop it. What year did you guys start it? Like, give me a year.
We were really young.
I'll be 59 I'll be 59 years old in like a week. I'm old.
And that's
Really?
hey, that's his way of saying, hey, everybody, my birthday's coming up. Make sure you wish me a happy birthday. Get me something.
He should do that.
No, absolutely. No, I remember listening
I'll take him to his wife's restaurant.
I met Tommy through K-Jock. And I guess, I mean, I met you through K-Jock, correct?
Yes.
And then afterwards.
Dan Burns was the guy who did that.
Yeah. Damn him to this day.
We were just, you know what happened? Well, to be honest with you, Tom is the reason a lot of my success. We did the weekend roundball show, and I think Tom was starting to work for Rivals or some company, and then he got me connected with the guy, and then it just took off from there. I became kind of a national guy because of Tom, so I always appreciate what he's done. Tom's a good guy. No matter what, people can get mad at all the podcasts, but I'm never going to let anybody talk shit to Tom Kakert. He's a good dude.
You guys are both good people.
Same as Ted.
You guys are both good people, despite people not agreeing with everything you guys always say. So, hey, guys, I appreciate it. Enjoy the game tonight, and may the best team win. Maybe the least worst team win, if that makes any sense. All right, fellas, we appreciate you. Thanks so much. All right, we have much more to get to here on Off the Air on a Tuesday. Coming up, we'll turn our attention to the high school hardwood and get ready for a busy week of regional basketball on the Illinois side of the river. Ty Taylor.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air on a Tuesday here in the Quad Cities. Of course, a lot of eyes on the big college basketball game tonight, Iowa versus Illinois, but it's a huge time on the high school hardwood as well, with regionals taking center stage and really good regionals, a pair of them in 2A. So I figured there's no better person to talk to than WRMJ's own Ty Taylor, and I like to say my favorite Taylor. Do you get that a lot? Do people say to you like, man, you're my favorite Taylor?
Yeah, most people do. I think it is just because of, I'm younger. I'm probably a little bit better looking than my dad right now too. I've got hair. I've got a lot going for me, I guess. So yeah, I would say most people do say, and I'm not an Alleman grad either. So everybody loves me because of that.
So with all that being said, your dad has set a low bar. It's not like It's set this high expectation. I mean, the bald, the ugly, like he kind of set a low bar for you.
I know. I feel like I've cleared it pretty easily already. You know, it's like, and when you do high jumping, it's kind of like the preliminary height. Like it's been pretty simple and pretty easy, I think. So yeah.
No, your dad's a good dude, a great guy. Of course, a legend in his own mind and in a lot of other people's minds as well. Yeah. So, I wanted to talk to you because you're busy this week. You've got a lot of basketball on WRMJ. I know you were at Mercer County last night for the Mercer County Alleman basketball game, which Mercer County won that one by 21. So it sets up an interesting couple of regionals in 2A and your breadbasket where you do a lot of work and know a lot about. So I wanted to have you on because you got two separate ones. I think we're going to start at Mercer County where you were last night, where the number 1 seed is Sherrard. And Ty, I just want to start with talking about Sherrard this year. A historic season for the Sherrard Tigers. I had Alex Johnson on the show long time ago. I feel like I've been a part of this because of my mojo, but they've done a fantastic job. A really, really good basketball team in Sherrard.
Oh yeah. So 27-3, like you said, a record setting year where they've won, the most games in school history. I think the previous record was 23. They're at 27 now. And it's really been fun to watch that program kind of progress and reestablish itself. So Coach Johnson took over, this is his 3rd season, and it had been a long time since Sherrard even finished above 500. I think they went 17-11 his first year. Last year, they won 20-plus games. And they've played for regional championships 2 years in a row now, trying to make it 3 years in a row if they can win Wednesday night against Kewanee. But just the growth of that program has been so fun to watch, I think. And like you said, they've had such a good year, and you've kind of seen it building the past couple of seasons too with the talent they have in their senior class. I know like the Carton last name, if you follow Quad Cities basketball, all about DJ Carton. Well, his younger brother, Rylan, is Sherrard's best player. He just set the single season scoring record for them this year. He scored, I think, 590 points. He's a terrific player. He's kind of their leading scorer, about 20 points per game. They've got a really athletic senior, James Blackwell, who's really, built himself into a complete basketball player. Carter Brown's just a terrific overall athlete for them. They play really high-pressure defense, and they're able to score the basketball. They get up and down the floor. They're an exciting team to watch, too. So, yeah, it's been a really fun year for them. And potentially if they're able to get through the regional round in Aledo, which is just 20 minutes down the road probably for them. And, Viola, which is part of the Sherrard School District, is like 10 minutes from Aledo. And they've had big crowds all year. If they can get through the regional, which they're a favorite in Aledo, they'll play at home in the sectional, which would be, really cool with some of the crowds and the following Sherrard has got this year.
Yeah, I want to stay with Sherrard because you mentioned Rylan Carton, and I remember watching him kind of grow up and knowing he's DJ's brother. I know the family, and he's just gotten better and better and better. Kind of talk about and I didn't know the ceiling, what it was, and I don't know if maybe he surpassed what the ceiling was in my mind, but always a good basketball player. He's really put things together the last couple of years, especially here his senior season.
Yeah. So his first year at Sherrard was his sophomore year. And that year, like, he still kind of had, I would describe it as like an immature, kind of like junior high type body where you could watch him. He didn't play a whole lot of varsity his sophomore year. In the second half, he got into the varsity lineup a little bit, but just physically, he wasn't really there yet. You could see the skill, like at the JV level, he was really, really impressive to watch. And then just over the past 2 years, really, he's just transformed kind of his body, and he's grown into his body too, where he's about probably 6'4", 6'5" now too. And you knew the skill was always there. I remember his sophomore year, we were covering a game Sherrard was playing at Monmouth Roseville, and at the time, Monmouth Roseville's head coach was Jake Sotos, who played Division I basketball and was a Monmouth high school grad. And we were wrapping up our pregame interview, and I was standing by him during like the third quarter of the JV game, and he pointed at Rylan and he goes, "That kid is going to be really, really good." And because you could always see the skill set he had, and he was just such a smooth player, he just didn't have the like athleticism yet, but he's grown into it. And man, oh man, he can do a lot of different things. He can score at all 3 levels. He can go to the rim. He can dunk on you. He can step back and hit threes. He had a game this season where he scored 36 points against Orion. So yeah, he's really grown into quite a player and one of the best players in the year. I keep saying all year, I think he's probably a first-team All-Stater this year. That's the type of year he's had.
The excitement around that program as well, because you mentioned Alex Johnson. I have to give him his credit because he led my intramural team, my C-League team, to 3 championships as well. Probably his greatest achievement on the basketball court, if you
I
ask
would say
Coach
so.
Johnson.
I've heard that's like the stuff of legends, that team, right? Andy Say was on that team, right?
Can you imagine those two idiot knuckleheads? I gotta be careful. They just talked nonstop, Ty. Like, I would be out on the court. Okay, full disclosure, I'd probably be on the sideline watching, and they would just coach and play at the same time. And now they're two of the best coaches in the area. It's been fun to watch. Two really good dudes. You know that as well. But what Coach Johnson has done with that program as well, you could see it last year. When did you maybe realize that, Sherrard couldn't be that team this year? I think they beat Rockridge the first time at their place in a close game. And the second go round, I thought, it's a good basketball team, but Rockridge goes back home. They play better. They win that game. And the two had a classic game in the second game at Rockridge, and they sweep Rockridge. I think that put it in my mind that this is, and maybe before then, I don't want to say it was towards the end of the year, but when did you start realizing that, man, this Tigers team that they've been putting together for a few years could have a really special season?
I agree with you. Them beating Rockridge was very important because as the program has been kind of building itself up the past couple of years, they really hadn't had like the big win where they beat a really elite team in a big time game. They've played in a lot of them, but over the previous 2 seasons, they had kind of lost every time once they got back to kind of the top of the mountain to try to overcome whoever. And a lot of the times locally, of course, it's Rockridge, and with Sherrard's proximity to Rockridge and the history there, that's kind of the hump they have to get over. So beating them the first time I thought was so big just because it had been so long since Sherrard had beat Rockridge. And I know with the talent that Rockridge has in that senior group, like I'd imagine most of those Sherrard kids had probably never beat Rockridge in boys basketball their whole lives, probably. So to do that, I think to see themselves beat Rockridge was such a big win because early in the year, I know Sherrard played a really good Rockford Christian team at their Thanksgiving tournament in Oregon and lost by 13. It was a tie game at halftime. But then, another elite team in Rockridge, they beat them the first time. They control it basically from start to finish. I think they got up 11 too early, Sherrard did, and was able to hold on. They never trailed in the game. And then the second game they played was the complete opposite, where Rockridge got off to a really great start and actually led Sherrard by 11 in the third quarter. And then the Tigers were just able to kind of chip away and then win in the end and hold on. And just like you said, 2 classic games really in the last 3 times that they've played, talking about Sherrard and Rockridge, it's been a 1-possession game where basically it comes down to a shot at the buzzer. So it's been really fun to kind of watch that rivalry, get renewed with Sherrard being competitive with Rockridge again. And I agree with you, though. I think them beating Rockridge, there's a few doors they've needed to kick down, and that was the first one, is getting over the hump of actually seeing themselves beat Rockridge, who's been the power in the area for 10 years. Ty
Taylor from WRMJ joining us right now. You look at this. Let's look at this regional then, because it is. I believe they Sherrard and Kewanee on Wednesday night. And then the second game is intriguing as well because you got an Orion team who's had a really good season in their own right, but they're missing their best player and probably going to keep missing him this week. And then Mercer County team that, recently beat Rockridge. I know they played a really good game to do that, but they beat Rockridge. They beat Alleman handily last night by 21. An intriguing second game. Let's talk about that one first, I think, because Orion and Mercer County could be a fun basketball game, especially with Mercer County being on their home court.
Yeah, I think it will be. The first time that Mercer County and Orion played, they played twice, of course, in the track this year. It was a 6-point game. This is way back in December, so you don't know how much you really can take away from a game that early in the season, speaking about, now playing in late February. But it was a 6-point game. The Orion won. That Mercer County, led for parts of the fourth quarter in that one. And then the second time they played, which is just a few weeks ago, probably about a month ago in late January now, Orion kind of controlled that from start to finish. I think they were up by more than 20 in the second half and kind of cruised to a win. But like you alluded to there, so Orion, their top player is a kid named Kyler Owens. He's a junior. He's an electric scorer. He averages up over, I think he's at 21 points per game, about 5 or so rebounds per game too. And he's already scored 1,000 career points, basically at the tail end of his junior year. He's been out for about 3 weeks. I think it was a stress fracture to his right foot. So he's had a few doctor's appointments from what I've heard. Sounds like probably won't be able to go this week, which is a shame because Orion, they've won 24 games. They're one of Sherrard's 3 losses. They split with Sherrard in the regular season. So it's too bad because this time of the year you want to see everybody at full strength. But with Owens likely out, he's been in a boot for the past few weeks. Like, I think that game with Mercer County becomes really, really intriguing. And I think Orion still might have a slight edge, but that should be a really good game, especially, like you said, Matt, on, Mercer County's home floor, where I know Orion should bring a pretty good crowd. Mercer County always gets good crowds at home. And then you add in, like, Sherrard, has had a great following, like we alluded to. They play at 6 on Wednesday night over in Aledo. So there should be a lot of people in that gym. Should be loud, should be fun. And I think, like you said, should be a very competitive game between Mercer County and Orion trying to get to the regional title game on Friday night.
Yeah, it's Sherrard and Kewanee in the first game, I believe, and then Orion, Mercer County. Winners play Friday night for regional championship. Ty, we mentioned Rockridge, and boy, there's a ton of talent on that team, and they've had a good year. They packed their schedule, so if you look at their record, you're going to go, well, that's underwhelming compared to what they normally have been, but they've been really tested throughout the season, played a really, really good schedule. As good of a draw that Sherrard got in the postseason, I think Rockridge probably got the opposite. They have to go down to Macomb in a regional that has Macomb, the host team, in it, that beat them and ended their season a year ago. When you look at the draw that Rockridge got, what goes through your head?
So I agree with you. I think that the championship game is, theoretically, if it ends up being Rockridge versus Macomb, is tough. I know I saw the stat on Macomb. They haven't lost on their home floor all season. Like you just said, they ended Rockridge's season a year ago with just like a 3-point barrage down in Canton. It was I think they went 9 of 12 from 3 that night to just kind of, pull away from Rockridge in the second half of that game in the sectional title game. But I think like the semifinal round for Rockridge works out. I think they won't have too many issues with Farmington, who they play tomorrow night. But yeah, the game with Macomb will be a battle if both teams are able to get through the semifinal round. Macomb has to beat Canton, who they played, I think, to a 6-point game a couple of weeks ago. So that's kind of maybe a little bit of a toss-up too. But I think Macomb on their home floor will be able to get past Canton. So Rockridge, though, like you said, their schedule, covering them this season, it's been, just off the charts in terms of difficulty. They're 21-10, but those 10 losses, they've played Rock Island twice. That's 2 of their losses. They've played Moline. They played UT. So that's 4 losses right there. They played a Diet team out of the Chicago Public League who spent most of the year in the top 10 in 2A. And just kind of down the line, you look at the Warrensburg Latham as 4 losses. They played them in Riverton last week. You can go up and down. Played Sherrard twice. Those are 2 of their losses too. So it's been, they've always done that, when Coach Shea was there and Coach Whiteman. But I give, Coach Harris a lot of credit because I think this is the most challenging schedule they've ever played when you talk about from start to finish. I don't think there was one bad team they played all year. And I told Coach Harris when we talked to him post-game Friday after their regular season finale, like, to win 21 games with the schedule you played as a 2A team is pretty impressive. So they're battle tested for sure. And those kids talking about, Bull and Kuniko and Wheatley, they've played a ton of postseason games. So I would never bet against those guys this time of the year. They just always seem to get it done when it matters most.
Yeah. And you look at that game from last year, obviously, I know it's the postseason, so the games are big regardless, but there is a little revenge on their mind, and it's not the same Macomb team. It's going to be a grind if that game does happen. It's going to be a grind because those are 2 teams that like to, especially Macomb, they're going to grind it down. It's going to be a, game in the 40s. Every possession's important. But you mentioned the experience from that senior class for Rockridge. It's tough to bet against them when it comes to certain things. And you look at it as an old Alleman guy. When I was at Alleman and they went down to state several times, it had nothing to do with me. But you looked at their schedule or their record at the end of the year, and it was underwhelming. It was 500-ish. And then they got down to the postseason and did really well. Rockridge is similar to that. And in that same sectional, man, if they get through Macomb, there's probably Peoria Manual, who's 18-12 on the season, and they've probably played a tougher schedule than Rockridge has. They lost to Rock Island by 4, and I think they were leading late in that game. So it's not just the regional that's tough for Rockridge. Talk about that sectional as well, because looming for everyone here in our area is Big Bad Peoria Manual, which is a state power as always once again.
Yeah, everybody knows what Manual represents when you talk about high school basketball in Illinois. And speaking about the section we talked about earlier, but Sherrard's hosting it, so there's going to be 4 really good teams at that sectional next week. So, I mean, I don't know what the, 3A, 4A sectional sites are, but if you're like a high school basketball fan of the Quad Cities next week, Sherrard's hosting a 2A sectional, which I think, like I said, should have 3 really high quality games, talking about the 2 semifinals and the championship game next Friday. But yeah, I think it definitely runs through Manual. I mean, you have to say it does. Last year it did too, and they got upset by Macomb in one of the craziest games I've ever seen in person. I think, if I remember right, they were up something like 16 or 17 points in the third quarter, Manual was, and Macomb stormed back and beat him in one of the craziest comebacks like in postseason history, really, in the IHSA, I think, with just how heavy of a favorite everybody thought Manual was to not just win that sectional in Canton last year, but win the state title. And, that's kind of how postseason basketball goes sometimes. But I think the thing that adds to it that makes Manual, more scary for me this year is, you talked about, like just a second ago, Rockridge wanting to maybe get revenge on Macomb. Well, Manual, I think they're going to be like on a path to right the wrong of what happened last year in the sectional to them. So they're a pretty heavy favorite. They play in Tremont this week. I think they should get through that regional without much issue. The winner of the Mercer County regional, though, plays the winner of the regional hosted by El Paso Gridley, which I think is wide open. The semifinals there are El Paso Gridley against Bloomington Central Catholic, which Bloomington Central Catholic is the, I guess, quote, what they'd be the 4 seed in that regional. And they took Rockridge down to the wire this season. They play in January, I think, and it was a game that Rockridge had to score at the buzzer to win in. So they play El Paso Gridley, and then the second semifinal is Tri-Valley against U-High out of Normal. So whoever comes out of that, I think all 4 of those teams have a potential to win that regional. That'll be a tough matchup for, if Sherrard's able to get through the Mercer County regional, that's who they would play in the semifinal round of the sectional. So yeah, that part of the state, I mean, down Peoria, Bloomington area, always really solid. And, I think whoever comes out of the 2 local regionals will be really tested when they get to the semifinal round of the sectional next week.
Ty, you talk about the big picture. It's cool this week, and Wednesday night's cool because they're not the big games we've talked a ton about, but the Mercer Counties and Orions are fun. And you look at Kewanee, I mean, possibility of, we talked Rockridge Sherrard, but Orion Sherrard's a closer distance than the other 2 schools, and that's a good rivalry as well. Talk about what your old gym will be like this week, because getting all those schools together in one gym and playing for a regional plaque, that's what it's all about. That's the fun of what we get to do and what we get to cover.
Yeah, it'll be great. And I think like the gym in Aledo at Mercer County is a really old gym, and it's one of the louder places, I think, around, talking about like small school gyms, just with kind of the structure of it in there. And I was hoping, I'm kind of disappointed that Monmouth Roseville lost to Kewanee last night, because if Monmouth Roseville would have won, the 4 teams in Aledo tomorrow night would have been, Mercer County, Monmouth Roseville, Sherrard, and Orion. Kewanee is in Monmouth Roseville's place against Sherrard. But yeah, it'll be packed. I mean, tomorrow night you talk about Sherrard playing, 20 minutes from home, basically. They'll bring a huge crowd with the year they've had. They'll play Kewanee, and then Orion, not too far away either. They should bring a big crowd. Mercer County, like I said earlier, always has a pretty good following at home, especially. So it's going to be tight in there, I think. And I think probably a lot of those Sherrard people, because of how close they are at home, probably will stick around if they're able to get past Kewanee to watch the second semifinal game. So I'm excited for it. I mean, I just love, Mercer County. For people who maybe don't follow the small school side of things in the Quad Cities, they are in a new conference this year. They moved from the Lincoln Trail to the track, and with that they kind of are back together with all the old schools Aledo was with in the Olympics. So it's been the first year where Mercer County's competed for conference titles with Rockridge, Sherrard, Orion, Monmouth Roseville, all their historic, neighboring schools. And with that, the crowds in Aledo have been so much better throughout the year. And the regional, I think, like you said, will be so awesome with just the local schools. It feels like an old school regional, how it used to be. That's what my dad always says, because now with the sub-sectional setup, a lot of times you get teams sent weird places. But I know, like, back in the day, it was basically like, those 6 teams would play each other in the regional every year. And now you get that this year, with the exception of Rockridge getting sent to Macomb. I mean, it's basically the local regional. And I think Aledo's a great venue for it. So yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
It's funny you mentioned the gym at Mercer County, because That's the first thing my son said, who's a freshman, when we went into the gym yesterday. He's like, Dad, the way this place is and the echo in here and that kind of stuff, he goes, I bet you this place gets really, really, really loud. And I'm like, yeah, it can be fun. So I think that's what we're going to see this week. I know the football stuff is fun, Ty, and I really love that time of year. But there's something for me about these high school basketball games because they go fast. I mean, high school basketball games, you get there, you sit, it's an hour 10 if the referees aren't messing around and all that kind of stuff. I know some can get longer, but just the action, the environment, and you mentioned the Sherrard population and fan base right now this year. It's going to be a lot of fun, and this is what you live to do, right? I mean, this is, you get paid, allegedly, to go cover a bunch of great basketball this week, right? No, I know it, but you get to do, you get to live the dream and cover some really good basketball.
Yeah, I for me, covering like high school sports, like you said, I love football too, but I think the most fun time of the year is the basketball postseason because it just is a different environment, I think, when you talk about how loud gyms can get, just because the crowd's a lot closer to the game than it is in football. And, there's less seating too, obviously, and everyone's more kind of packed in together, where at football games, you can really kind of spread out, of course, around the field. So I love the basketball postseason. And, like, for us locally, some of the schools we've covered, like we talk about, like Rockridge, some of the great runs and great moments they've had in the postseason. My dad's favorite game, even though he's an Alleman grad, was when Sherrard upset Alleman in 2001. That's a classic moment, too, where you just get – and in basketball, too, I think there's a lot more opportunity for upsets to happen because, still in Illinois, there will be in a couple years, but there's no shot clock. And, you can, if the team that's, maybe the underdog is able to control the pace of the game, there's a chance for them to hang around too. And the games are shorter, 32 minutes. If you get behind, it's not very long and you got to try to dig your way out of it. So that's why it's really interesting. Like we talked a lot about Sherrard. But, it's not out of the question. They could maybe, get upset on Wednesday because I know they played Kewanee to a decently competitive game the first time. And Sherrard this year, their one issue is they've gotten off to some slow starts throughout the year. And that's something that in the postseason, when you have to come back from in, January, December, I think it's a little easier mentally to do it than when, the season's on the line and the greatest regular season of school history is on the line too. So, that's what I love. There's so much randomness in basketball games. If a team gets hot, starts knocking down threes, that can be scary. So, yeah, it's fun. Every aspect of postseason basketball, I think, is just the best, really.
Before I let you go, give me the rundown on how WRMJ is going to cover all this. Are you going back to your alma mater? Is anybody going down to Macomb? Kind of give us where people can listen and all that good stuff this week.
All right. So I will be covering the Mercer County Regional for us. So we'll cover Merco, Rockridge, and Orion. So we'll have both semifinals, then the championship guaranteed with Mercer County and Orion playing each other in the semifinal round. My dad is going to Macomb for us to cover the Rockridge Rockets.
Did you big time your dad? Did you big time him to get the? You did, didn't you?
Well, he said, which would you rather do? And I said, well, I'd rather stay in Aledo, I think, but. A lot of the times he'd rather do one game anyway than two. So
that's true.
I guess it worked out for both.
He is an older gentleman these days, so that's nice that you take care of
Rockridge he gets to play they get to play the early game. So yeah, he'll do Rockridge Wednesday against Farmington. Then if they win, he'll do them Friday night down in Macomb for the regional title game too. So I think as of now we're planning on like the games at Mercer County to be on our FM signal as well as like our streaming app and online, and then we'll have Rockridge as an online broadcast exclusively. So
fantastic.
That's the plans for WRMJ postseason basketball, everybody.
I love it. People need it. You'd be surprised, man. A good friend of mine is Caleb Kunico's dad, Pete Kunico, and he said last week, he goes, you should have Ty Taylor on. I go, I should have Ty Taylor on. So an assist goes to the Kunico family for making this happen. But as always, I appreciate everything you guys do. I got to get that old man of yours on the show here one of these days soon. So let him know I'm going to be bugging him soon.
Right to my right. I can try to put in a good word for you.
Yeah. Let him know I'm going to be bugging him real soon. Enjoy the calls. Enjoy the game. All the games this week. And we'll talk to you real soon, Ty. Appreciate you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Matt Randazzo, Quad City sports legend. One more thing before I go.
Yes.
I follow your show pretty well, I think. Now, I've noticed, as Brian Stocking, he hasn't been a guest yet. Is that right?
He hasn't because he's got to work during the show. And like he called me on President's Day, but he called me like as the show was going. He texted me, he's like, I could be on the show today. So, and then finally over the weekend, he said, I could tape something if you need me to. And I'm like, well, of course you can, because I do tape a lot of these. So, yes, stockpile in the very near future. I just got to make sure I get my blood pressure low enough before I let stockpile come back up on here, so I don't get too upset with the poor lad. But I'll get stock. The people want stockpile. I understand it. We'll make it happen real soon.
Good. All right, thanks, man.
All right, Ty, be good. He is Ty Taylor from WRMJ. It's going to be a huge week of high school basketball, especially in 2A. We got a great regional in 4A as well when you got Moline, UT, and Rocky all at Wharton Fieldhouse along with Pekin. We'll talk about that later in this week right here on Off the Air. Well, it's time for one more break. We'll be back right after this.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air on a Tuesday here in the Quad Cities. It's been a fun show because Tuesday night means Iowa-Illinois basketball. It's the only time they'll meet during the regular season. They usually used to meet 2 times a year. Heck, there was several years it felt like they were meeting 3 times a year because of the Big Ten tournament. But just one meeting this year. The 2 schools did not play in football. So the Iowa-Illinois rivalry here in the Quad Cities has been yearning for a game. I don't know if they've been wanting a game like this, which 2 teams coming in struggling a little bit. Fan bases a little cranky on each side of the river. So, but it'll be a lot of fun. Iowa and Illinois tonight, 8 p.m. FS1. The line right now is Illinois by 11.5 points. And you heard it here earlier in the show. Ken Prince from the Illini guys, good friend of mine, has Iowa winning. I think he said 82-74. So Iowa winning by 8. Tom Kakert had Illini losing, or I should say winning by 5. I have the Illini winning 85-75. We'll see what happens tonight. If you missed today's show, Tom and Ked did a great job. A lot of views, a lot of people tuning in on X and on YouTube to check out what those 2 guys have to say. Of course, they've been friends for a long, long time, 3-4 decades, and always good and entertaining television when Tom and Ked get together, and that's exactly what happened today. So if you missed today's show with Tom and Ked, make sure you go check it out, especially before tonight's game at 8 o'clock tonight between Iowa and Illinois. We also want to thank Ty Taylor from WRMJ for coming on and talking about a really interesting sectional in 2A. 2 regionals, the regional at Mercer County and then one down at Macomb. It all funnels into the Sherrard sectional, a lot of really good basketball teams. So we appreciate Ty's time. Make sure you check out the games tonight. On Wednesday and on Friday, WRMJ has you covered in those as well. If you missed yesterday's show, Pat Anger, Jordan Delp, TJ Kester, and Jake Knight, 2 wrestlers that are state champions from Bettendorf, and Don Umland all on the show yesterday. So go check out yesterday's show. If you have not subscribed on YouTube, if you're watching this on X and you do any YouTubing whatsoever, please go to YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Off the Air with Matt Randazzo, inching ever so close to 700 subscribers. Want to get to 700. Want to get to 800, 900, eventually 1,000 subscribers as well. And if you missed today's show or any of our shows, you can check them out on all of our podcasting platforms as well. A lot to get to tomorrow. It is a Wild Man Wednesday, so we'll have Dan Burrich in the house talking plenty of sports from his old K-Jock days as well. And then, of course, the Iowa-Illinois game tonight, we'll probably break that down with Jim Madsen tomorrow. We're going to effort to get Jim Madsen on to talk about that game. And, of course, much, much more as we move along the week here on Off the Air. We want to thank everyone for watching today. It is greatly appreciated, and we will see everyone back here tomorrow on Off the Air.